This is the introduction to the Cash Crash course. The idea behind this course is to take you from zero to hero as fast as possible and set you on a good path toward being able to play online cash games professionally. The Cash Crash course is going to be split into volumes. At this stage, there are 4 volumes planned for the Cash Crash course. The sections are as follows. Baseline. This is really going to detail the setup and a very high-level overview of the way that professional poker players approach online cash games. There won't be too much in terms of actual poker strategy in this section of the course, but we will cover very important concepts such as bankroll management, using a poker tracker, getting set up with the required hardware for playing poker. We'll also give an overview of the mental game of poker, productivity, and also security when playing online poker. This is something that's not really covered in any training course. We're going to touch on security as a poker player. We'll also talk about multitabling. That's a very important skill that's often not addressed directly. And we'll also answer an important question at the beginning of the course. Is poker gambling? So that's the baseline section. We'll then move on to key concepts. This is where we start breaking out the theory version of playing online cash games. There won't be a lot of direct poker play in this part of the course, but we will consider concepts such as GTO versus exploitative poker, EV and statistics, pot growth, equity denial, flop connection, player profiling, hand reading, and naming the game tree in poker. Very, very important key concepts that are sometimes overlooked in courses that jump straight into the strategy application. That's going to be the 3rd volume in the Cash Crash course, which is application of poker strategy. Here we'll be looking at much more specific scenarios in individual hands of poker and discussing the best play in those scenarios. We'll see examples of important concepts such as bluffing river, bluff catching rivers, pre-flop strategies, how to target recreational players, flop c-betting, turn barreling, defending flop against bets, defending turn, etc. Finally, volume 4 of the Cash Crash course is going to be the advanced section where we break out some of the more advanced concepts that professional cash game players make use of on a day-to-day basis. We'll be talking about things such as EV modeling, GTO tree building, understanding mixed strategies, pseudo balance, equity distributions, textual analysis, and a range of other concepts that are generally considered advanced by the poker community. Keep in mind that this is a crash course. What this really means is that there are some concepts that we will touch on once and then not really revisit too much. For the full retention of information here, it's going to be necessary for you to manually revisit if you need to recap on a certain video. And the other thing that might be a good idea is to branch out to additional strategy material. A simple example of this is at some point we will have a training video on pre-flop play, but it's not as if we can cover everything to do with pre-flop play in No Limit Hold'em cash games in a single training video. It's going to serve as a great introduction. But one thing you might think about doing at that stage is branching out to watching the pre-flop expert training video series on pokerweasel.com for a much more detailed understanding of how to play pre-flop in every scenario. Another example is that we will be looking at some basic range research and spending some time working with trackers, HUDs, and statistics in this crash course. Once again, you can't do this full justice in a crash course because we could have an entire video series on statistics, range research, population analysis, making use of tracking software. That's exactly what the Master Data Mechanic pokerweasel.com video series is going to deal with. So once again, when you get to the relevant point of the crash course, it might make sense to either branch out immediately to watching another series, or you could loop back once you finish the entire crash course. Now, you may decide that it's a good idea to pick and choose sections of the crash course. This is 100% fine. So if you look at the lineup for specific volume and think that you kind of know everything in that section of the course, that's fine. You can pick and choose sections of the crash course. However, keep in mind that even from volume 1 of the crash course, we're going to be covering topics that are not covered in other training schools. So for example, when we talk about bankroll management strategy, we'll be covering strategies that are not covered elsewhere. When we talk about security, hardware requirements, productivity, all of these topics will have unique information that's specific to pokerweasel.com. So even if you feel like you have a solid understanding of the basic approach to being an online professional cash game player, this is a great opportunity to recap on some of those basics in a little bit more depth. All right, having said that, thanks very much for checking out this introduction to the Cash Crash course. I look forward to catching you guys in the course.